Welcome to the Stone Table. This isn't a stage, it's a gathering place. Here, lifters of all kinds bring their stories. The heavy, the honest, and the hard-earned. Real voices, real weight. Shared like a good pour among friends. Recorded in Ontario, Canada, and open to lifters everywhere. Sláinte.
Welcome to the Stone Table Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Innes. Today's episode is going to start somewhere familiar for many of us, but maybe something new with respect to some of the strength principles that we will be diving deep into in this episode, which are the strong first principles. It's not just about stones, it's about a system. It's a way of relating to the weight, essentially, and a way of standing in front of something that's heavy and how you're deciding to meet it. My guests today are Ben Bradbury from England and Sven Rieger from Germany. Both are strong first coaches, deeply thoughtful lifters, phenomenal lifters, actually. And both have taken these principles outside of the gym into the world of stones. Sven has lifted the Dinnies. Ben is about to lift the Dinnies. They've both had lifts at Inver and other historic stones, which we'll delve into today. So it's not a conversation today about who lifts the biggest stone, but it's how these principles have become practice for them and how the confidence that they've built quietly in the strong first system has allowed them to get to the stones in the first place. So Ben, Sven, that's a mouthful. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm really, as I said before we got on, I am super nerded out about this conversation. We have a lot to pack in an hour and a half. We're going to run the gamut. So the first thing is I always do with every guest is I say, hey, what are you drinking? Let's warm up a little bit with a chat about that.
So,
Sven.
because everybody's sick around me, I have hot lemon. And sometime throughout the conversation, I will probably transition to herbal tea.
Excellent. And Ben, what do we have?
I've got a good old-fashioned black coffee, but for historic reasons and stuff we might touch on, I've got a rum and shrub, which was one of my granddad's favorite drinks. I haven't gone full navy rum like he would have done, but for people who don't know shrub, it's an old English alcoholic cordial, and it was used when they brought rum over and they smuggled it in barrels, and the barrels would get contaminated and the rum would be salty and wouldn't taste good. So they'd put this in, which was fruity and herby, to disguise rum that had gone bad, basically.
Wow. Now, yeah, depending on how long we are here, I'm at 7 a.m. So I'm drinking my coffee, but I still on my little stone table here have some whiskey to the side in case we do get that deep into this chat. So, and it's a Canadian and it's amazing. I tried it last night. And for those Canadians listening that haven't tried it and need something in place of bourbon, this is a go-to try, a nice Canadian try while we are, our southern neighbors are not sending up alcohol at the moment. So we have to find alternatives. All right. So this is my first time hosting with two people. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be hosting, I think, 6 people at a time. So you're going to be my test run.
The guinea pigs.
Of how I run this. So to start off with, let's get right into strong first. You're both coaches in that. I think you're also trainers, but tell us a bit about yourself and how you came into the strong first system, and then we'll talk about strong first itself. Sven.
So basically, just by pure accident, I started training when I was 18, so roughly 20 years ago. Basic stuff like dumbbells at home, pull-up bar in the garden, nothing that fancy. And one day, a friend of mine asked me whether I would like to join his training group in the afternoon. because he said I might be interested in what they're doing there, and it's completely different from what I'm used to. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just give this a try. And at that time, it was a circuit training, like high intensity stuff, fairly new in Germany at that point. But what really piqued my interest was that cannonball with the handle sitting on the floor, and I hadn't seen something like that at that time. And for whatever reason, after the training, that stuck with me. A friend of mine who was there as well decided to get one for himself, together with a book by Pavel Tsatsouline.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically led me down the rabbit hole. So that was in October of 2010. I got my own pair of kettlebells in February of 2011, and then one thing led to another. It took a little longer for me to really get into kettlebells because I was more into barbell training at that time. But the one thing the kettlebell really shines for me in every situation is availability. So you can take it with you wherever you go. And I hit situations where I wanted to keep training, but there was no gym around. So the kettlebell popped up in my mind again. And that was what ultimately led me to take my very first certification in 2016.
Wow. And are you a physiotherapist as well?
Yes, I
Okay.
finished physio school last year.
Okay, well, congratulations with that. So we have a
Thank you.
wealth of knowledge here. And Ben.
Yeah, so I started training probably in my sort of late teens. My way in was my sister's boyfriend at the time was in the British Army, and so he would just take me out on runs. And if there's one thing they do in the army, it's cover ground and lots of it. So I was humbled but kind of interested, and he just gave me some magazines, and I just started training in the gym. Loved it. Got very caught up with high intensity training, similar to Sven. So everything was as much as I could do in as short a time as I could do it. If I didn't feel like I was going to puke at the end of a session, it maybe wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. Not very wise training, but for someone in their sort of late teens, early 20s, you can bounce back from pretty much anything. And then I trained as a coach. So I've been a coach for about 16 years now. And about 14 years ago, I just felt I wanted to learn more. I just felt I'd done my PT qualification, but it was lacking. And I was trying to read as many books as I could lay my hands on. I'd gone through some of the athletic training books with Mike Boyle's stuff and found it really interesting. And a friend who is an osteopath just recommended, I think you should look into these guys. I think you should look into this organization called Strong First. I think you'd really like it. Yeah, I looked into it. I loved it straight away. What I saw, got myself some kettlebells and started training for my first cert, which was 2014.
And you also own a gym, correct?
Yeah, so I've been coaching for mostly one-to-one for about 16 years. And then about 5 years ago, I opened up a gym where we do all small group training. So it's all coach-led. It's all very structured. It's all general population. I like working with quote unquote normal people, although every now and then you get something amazing thrown your way. So I was very lucky. I had a friend come and he became a good friend who wanted to set a new world record, which he did. He's in the Guinness Book of Records now. He was the first man to solo row around the British Isles, which had been done in pairs and fours, but with one manpower, it's very hard to beat the tides and the weather. And yeah, he managed to do it. It took 2 attempts, so it spanned many years, but mostly I teach general population. And then from an athletic background myself, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So I started Jiu-Jitsu before I found Strong First, before I became a coach even. So that predates it all. And I just found the combination between the Strong First work and the Jiu-Jitsu really, really complemented really well.
Yeah, like you've hit on something really important for me is the normalcy of the clientele that both of you have, because those are the type of people that I like to draw to the Stone Table podcast. Obviously, the stone lifting world is made up of extremes, right? You have the professionals and you have the person that's picking up the stone the first time. But what really resonates with me is like bringing everybody to the table, those middle normal people that aren't necessarily going to be lifting a 500-pound stone any day, but are brought there simply because of the practice. I think you're saying is be strong, be kind, be what is it again?
Oh, you've really done your homework. Yeah, my gym's motto that we have up is be strong, be capable, be kind.
It's that simple, and I think those principles overlay with the stone table and stone lifting for me in general. And so between the two of you, we have collectively probably about 40 plus years of experience that we're going to delve into today. And I think so I'm slightly biased. Obviously, I'm going to express that to folks right now about my strong first affiliations. I'm not a coach. I'm not anything like that. But I was in between coaches last year and I decided for a goal that I was going to put my whole effort into competing in Highland Games last summer. And I met John Oden online, and I'd been reading and watching a number of his videos, and I follow him. And there was something that just resonated within me because he's not a big guy. Although he is a big guy in the strength
Yeah.
world, but he isn't a big he looks completely normal and I'm
Yeah.
normal. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna commit to what he's dishing out. And I'm going to follow and do what he is prescribed. I programmed myself based on what I was learning online through Strong First principles. And I ended up being national champion for the Highland Games in Canada last year. So something works in the program. And I didn't realize your affiliations until I'd already invited you. So no bias whatsoever, but let's delve into it. What is Strong First? Like, how would you describe Strong First in simple terms? And we'll start with you, Ben, and then you can build on Sven.
Yeah. So in really simple terms, it's a training organization. So it's an organization that provides education for anybody that wants to come and learn. It's not just for coaches. A lot of certs that you go to, the vast majority of people are not coaches. They are people that have just love training and want to find out more and want to learn how to do it better. So they provide technical coaching on specific tools. Most certs will be set up around a certain tool. So they have their kettlebell cert, which is the SFG. They have a barbell certification and they have a bodyweight one. They keep the tools simple. It's mostly just those three, but it is programming and philosophy education around strength training as well. And a lot of that just comes in by osmosis, especially the ethos. So you'll go along to these certs and you're on the surface just learning how to use one tool. But what they're really teaching you is how to apply your strength to anything that you want to. And then they have special courses, so things like Strong Endurance and Plan Strong, which delve really deep into the science and the particulars of programming for certain outcomes. But you can also pick up some of Pavel's books, which have just distilled all of those. And they make it so simple that you just go, oh, I'm just going to grab this kettlebell. I'm going to do 10 sets of 10 swings. I'm going to do 10 get-ups and I'm going to keep doing it. And stuff like that just makes it really accessible.
I mean, I think a very important point to repeat is what Ben said about educational side of things. Like, we see ourselves as a school. So our goal is to teach people to get strong or stronger, depending on the person. Strength for us is a skill, something that you can learn. You're not born strong or weak. You are born with certain capabilities, and in the end, it's just a matter of having the right guidance, let's say, to dive into those abilities and to really nurture them. We use the physical side of things, strength training, barbells, kettlebells, body weight. But ultimately, as one of our instructors said, it's like it's the gateway to all the manifold forms that strength actually has. One of my famous quotes that Brad Jones, our former director of education, made was the most of the strongest people that he met in his life never lifted a single weight. And I think if you are open enough to get into strength training from that perspective, you will realize, like most people who just go to the gym and train every day, that it actually has benefits and effects that surpass the physical by degrees. So ultimately, it is probably a program of self-improvement that is disguised as strength training.
And that is another aspect of this program that I like. And you can really sense this from John in the interactions with John, is that it's a psychological, spiritual journey as well. But we'll get into that in a little bit later. I want to delve into something. So I've done 531. I've done West Side. I've done any type of range. Why, amongst all of the things you could have chosen, all of the programming you could chosen, why Strong First?
For me, like I said in the beginning, it was actually the tool. So I did not choose a specific program to start with. I was just hooked by the kettlebell. And if somebody read Enter the Kettlebell, which I think was released sometime around 2008, Pavel features so many of the old strongmen in there.
Mm-hmm.
George Hackenschmidt, Sieg Klein, and all those amazing stories that go along with them. So for me, actually, it was that aspect. And then I tried different programs, but at that time I was just, well, a little too, how do you want to say that? I didn't get what the programs were about because I always tried to make them better by what I knew to be good. So it took probably around 10 years for me to realize, like, okay, just do the program as it outlined. It will work. But I think in the end, it is just an option for you to choose and pick from, because all the good programs out there that work actually will adhere to a certain amount of principles that stand behind the program. And once those are there, it really doesn't matter. And programs like 531 or Starting Strength and blinking on the name, who wrote it? Mark Ripto.
Ripto.
Yeah, if a program like that is out there for I don't know how many decades, you know that it will work. I think a crucial thing about a program is pick one and then stay with it. That was one of my big lessons. Finish the program because it will teach you something about yourself. Whether the program will work or not is not beyond the point, but it's not all there is to it, because you will learn about your own body, about your rhythm of adaptation, about the optimal training frequency and stuff like that. But you need something that gives you the opportunity to judge that, to get a measurement, and then you can continue different programs from there on.
Ben, any thoughts on that, or piggybacking on what Ben said or Sven said?
Similar to Sven, I don't think I realized quite the gold I'd struck when I signed up with Strong First for the first time. I made a really smart choice by dumb luck. I think I was drawn in because I saw this cert that had standards. With all of the Strong First certs, they have a standard that you have to hit. There is testing as part of it. And I probably like that for the wrong kind of reasons to start off with, or what I would now consider to be the wrong reasons. They've always said they're not, what's the phrase? They are elite, they're not elitist. And what I found was lovely when I actually have been along to all of these certs is some people will qualify on that weekend when they go along, whether it's the barbell, body weight, kettlebell. Some people will walk away with that certification of you achieved. Some people won't get it on the day, but that doesn't mean they failed the cert. And what's brilliant about the Strong First community is They, depending on the cert, they're given kind of 3 to 6 months afterwards to try and hit those standards, and they can video submit. But the people that are on that cert with them will help them every step of the way, as much as they lean on them. So you can reach out to the master instructor that was leading your cert, who probably lives on a different continent, and they will make time. And I can say this with confidence because I've met so many of them. These are busy people. They're running their own lives. They're going around the globe teaching, as well as family and their own businesses and whatever. They will still make time to help the people on their team pass that cert. I went into it because I liked the intensity of it. I liked, there's a standard, and I have to do these things, and it gave me something to work towards. But then once I got in there, it's been an education in terms of there's so much more to it than that. And it's helped me find a way to calm down that part of me that just wants to go hell for leather all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that blew me away, day one, stepped into the room. They made us, back in that time when I did it, there was a few of the testing standards they made you do straight away. So you signed your name on the enrollment thing, and then they went, there's a pull-up bar, do 5 strict pull-ups, let's see if you can do it. They don't do that now, but straight out the gate, it was like, whoa. But the thing that blew me away was I opened up the manual, and the first page is a code of conduct. This is how we expect you to behave. And they've pared it down to just 3 now, but I think there was 5. And it is things like, I'm a student of strength. I'm a quiet professional. Strength has a greater purpose. And the one that I really liked, which I don't know why they changed it, but the way I carry my strength matters. And all of those just resonated with me from what I'd seen in martial arts as well. There is a responsibility to being strong in whatever way you are strong. We're talking about physical strength. In martial arts, it's your technical prowess, your ability to fight. But it's something that I'd seen in martial arts, and it's something that my grandparents had taught my dad, and my dad had passed on to me, that you have a responsibility to look after people around you, and being strong in whatever way is, you have a responsibility with it. Strength is a responsibility, and that could be physical strength, that could be intellectual strength, or financial, whatever it might be. And I didn't understand all of that, and I still haven't put all the pieces together. Actually, prepping for this podcast helped me draw some of those pieces together. And with my imminent, I'm about to become a father for the first time, there's a lot of stuff that is now coming together in my head. But even though I didn't understand it all then, the first time I opened that manual and I saw there was a code of conduct, it just flicked a switch in me, and I went, I'm home. This is a place for me.
So when you were telling, I didn't go as deep as to look at the code of conduct, but
Okay.
when you were speaking them, like, I got shivers because they resonate with me and what I'm trying to bring to the stone community. And I think the one where, I think it was the second one that you said, is that quiet, like, even though we are having a conversation here and we are speaking about it, there's a quiet strength, and it's those quiet individuals within this community that are completely humbling to me. They may not be on social media, they may not be putting up their posts, but they're quietly working away in the background, demonstrating their strength, whether it be internally, mentally, spiritually, and lifting 300, 400, 500-pound objects. But they're just quietly doing it. And I want to highlight those kind of those people, and the code just absolutely resonates with the principles of the stone table for me.
Yeah, and it was something that struck me, and it's
Yeah.
I also like the phrase. I don't know who said it first, but if you're good, you'll tell everyone. If you're great, they'll tell you. And I've met some people, even in Strong First, and they don't tend to stick around, but I've met some people that they want to show off at those certs. They want to win the cert, and they want to prove how great they are. And they'll go around telling everybody at the cert. They just tend to filter themselves out, because they don't find a receptive audience for it there. Whereas so many people in Strong First are incredibly humble, and they can do, you don't know who you're stood next to and how incredible they can do, because they don't need to make a big deal about it. They're there to help you. They want to help you at that cert, and they'll never blow their own trumpet. And then quite often you'll go back from a cert and you'll go, oh, look that person up, who that was. And oh my God, I didn't realize, who I was in the presence of. And it encourages you, and it really inspires you to carry that into your everyday. You don't need to tell everybody what you do. You don't need to show off. But what you can do is you can use it to help them. And yeah, that's a lot more rewarding.
Well, and that's how this podcast between us came about, because I just resonated with your energies, and we were talking about the Inver stone, and I just resonated. But then when I started to prepare, I started to actually panic slightly, because I then realized who I was speaking to and how much background you have and knowledge you have. And I thought, I'm out of my depth. But but that in itself, and I know you're going to walk me along as we go through further when we talk about strength principles, but there is something to that. So obviously Strong First kind of brought you together. Can you talk about how you first connected? Like, where did that come in?
I do remember very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in 2017. I was taking the barbell certification at that time in England. And just to come back to that whole quite professional topic here, that is exactly what Ben exemplified at that certification, because I was like, wow, like, that the assistants who participate at the certifications have to do the testing themselves the day before. So when you participate, that they went through the same thing that you will have to go through during the weekend. So it's like, how do you say, walking the talk?
Mm-hmm.
There's a saying. So they're not there because they want to be there. They actually earned that spot to assist. And then just his his coaching eye, the cues he gave, I was really impressed by him. And I think we kept contact ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, okay. And you've kept in contact. So you've been kind of was there a mentorship, or was it just like a friendship? And you're like, how would you coin that? Because how did it lead to a stone lifting tour?
So
immediate friendship.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. So we just hit it off from that cert. And then I don't think we were communicating that regularly, but Sven came over for a couple of other certs. So Sven came over and assisted at, was it one of the SFGs that you came over to assist on as well?
I came over for a kettlebell certification. You came over to Germany for a little seminar I organized here. I came back to England, I think, to other certifications the following year. So not that close contact, but we saw each other regularly.
And then it was probably around, I think it was 2022, I'd started just incorporating some sandbag training into my into what I was doing. And I was posting it online, and Sven messaged me and said, hey, look, Sven had already lifted the Dinnies for the first time by then. And Sven dropped me a message and just said, hey, you seem to be lifting these sandbags. I'm thinking of doing a stone lifting tour next year. Would you like to join me? And I bricked it and suddenly panicked and went, oh no, somebody's thought I can do something I can't here. I've overrepresented myself. And yeah, then that led more into mentorship then, because then I asked if Sven would start coaching, help write programs for me to get ready for the stone lifting. So then it became a bit more mentorship, and that just led us to interacting more, a better friendship. We started messaging more around the mentorship. We would just then talk more often and voice note each other and FaceTime each other. And yeah, it drew us closer through that.
And so Sven, let's talk about the programming then. We will get into more details when we're talking about like Inverstone and that, but like just as a base programming, did you use Strong First principles when you were kind of giving Ben advice on how to prep for that stone tour?
I basically just told him what I had been doing to lift the Dinnie stones. And I was like, this is the outline I used. Why won't you give it a try, see how it works, and then we can adjust based on how things go. And I think I made some smaller adjustments based on my own program, but just like regarding the training for the Dinnie stones themselves, I think we pretty much did a similar approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read Sven's articles on the Dinnie stone prep, it's a must. And I'm going to provide links because they go through, I think it's the most specific explanation of Dinnie lift prep that I've seen on any social media or any published ones. And I don't want to get into the details of the articles because they're fantastic, but let's talk about just the general arc that you went through for the Dinnies, because there was some general strength and then there was specificity. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So when I set my eyes on lifting the Dinnie stones, I never lifted anything that was even close to them in weight before. So to reach 300 kilos in a rack pull, because you need to, how do they say, proof worthy for an attempt, just to show that you're capable, and I think more than anything else that you're not going to hurt yourself at the attempt. You have to provide proof of a lift of at least 300 kilos. And I think they leave it open to you to pick whatever you want to do. But I mean, a rack pull, so an elevated deadlift is, the obvious choice. I reached out to another strong first instructor who became a very good friend by then, Jason Marshall from Texas, because he lifted the Dinnie stones in 2019. He has a extensive background in powerlifting, both as an athlete and as a coach. I saw him training for the stones, and I just asked him, how do I best go about that? And I followed a very simple standard power cycle of linear progression for the rack pulls. Came to a point where I plateaued, and no matter how hard I tried, it just wouldn't move the way I wanted it to go. We decided to basically change gears and go back to that more foundational aspect of strength training again, giving a little different impulse to the body, and then transition back half a year later to the rack pulls and trying to go beyond that plateau I reached in the first place. And that worked just great. So as you said, you can read all the details in the article, but it was nothing super fancy. It were basic programs just done over a certain period of time. I reached the 300 kilo rack pull and then transitioned to the replica pins. So making things a little bit more specific in regards of the actual lift, but keeping very basic training or programming principles in the background. So not going super fancy, maxing out every day, just getting used to the feel of two independent weights from two different heights versus a barbell that you pull straight from an elevated position. Yeah, that was basically it. It just was a matter of time. I had one minor change happening when I started physiotherapy school because I had no access to a gym any longer, meaning I was reliant on mainly kettlebells and the pins. But ultimately, that worked out just great.
And so why did you choose to lift the Dinnies anyway? I mean, Ben, you've kind of been not forced, but coerced into stones by Sven by this point.
Happily
but Sven,
so.
Right? But why Sven?
Exactly. I can tell you. It is the same, believe me, it's the same feeling as with the kettlebell. Why that freaking kettlebell? I cannot tell you. It just resonated to something within me. When I saw Jason do those lifts, and I mean, if you look at it's 2 blocks of weight that he pulls with loud, aggressive music in the background. Most people would just like, what the hell is that guy doing? But I was like, why is he doing that? I was interested in why he would train specifically that way he did. And then he told me about the Dinnie stones. And then I watched, big surprise, Stoneland.
Mhm.
And I was just hooked. I mean, the atmosphere of that documentary, the scenes, the shots, it is just astonishing. And I mean, they build it up in a fantastic way so that it peaks with the Dinnie Stones, having all those people there together, Jack and Stevie Shanks. It drives a tear into my eyes every time I watch that scene. So I
Yeah,
cannot tell you. I
it's the
had to.
same. It's the same. I have no idea why I've chose stones myself. It's just a longing there. But Ben, so you were kind of lovingly coerced into this journey. But you did speak about something both in our messages and prep for this conversation, but just earlier, is that you said, "Oh, like, I don't think I'm prepared for this," because there's kind of this mentality that it's a big boy kind of sport practice. It's for a certain, like, the way you see on Instagram, it's just a lot of bigger people maybe doing it. And like, I definitely do not fit the traditional body type. But let's talk about how Instagram might have been misleading slightly in that. And can we unpack that a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm not someone who believes in themselves easily. I will take a long time to convince myself that I can do something. And even once I've done it, I'll go, that was a fluke. Every belt I've got in jiu-jitsu, I've gone, oh, maybe it's just because I've been in the background for enough years and they feel sorry for me. I will talk myself out of confidence very easily. And stones, I mean, before Instagram, before social media, World's Strongest Man was on every year. In England, it's shown at Christmas time. They film it in the summer or whatever, but it's always shown at Christmas time. It's a tradition here. So I grew up every year. We all sat down and we'd watch Strongman. My mum loves it. My dad loves it. Even though you don't have to know what's going on because it's so visual. You just see these huge guys throwing around huge things. And so I'd watch them do the Atlas stones every year. And then, some of the early years they used the Husafell stone early on, the year it was in Iceland. And then I think they made their own one. I remember in the early 90s, they had something called the Africa stone, which was the shape of the continent of Africa, basically a Husafell kind of knockoff that they could take with them. And you just go, well, that's for those gorilla men. That's for those huge dudes. It's amazing to watch, and I love watching it. And it's brilliant. And you'll take it with you. But I never thought it was for me. So then, a lot of my early training, even I think subconsciously was built around. I'm not the biggest guy. Like I'm the youngest of five, 4 boys, 1 girl. I'm not even the tallest out of my siblings, Bar my sister, I'm the shortest one. My granddad was a big dude. He was like sort of 6'2". Some people just remind you of animals. He was a bear. You looked at him and you went, that dude's a bear. He's just, I know that has some connotations in some other communities. I don't mean it that way, just in physical build and stature. And my brother inherited his build. I didn't. I inherited my dad's build, and we're just, I'm just under 5'10". I'm not a big guy. The heaviest I've been is about 84 kilos. Most of my jiu-jitsu, I competed at lightweight, so down at 74 or something like that. So I think even my early training was, I can't lift those big things, but what I can do is have a huge work capacity. And that's why I think I was drawn to the high intensity stuff when I was younger. The guy that I went out running with, who was in the British Army, that could just keep going and going, I could hang with him for the first couple of kilometers, and then he was like a machine. And I just thought, it'd be good to be like a machine. Early on in jiu-jitsu, that's what I could do. I couldn't outstrength people. I couldn't outsize people. But if I could just draw them into deep waters and make them tired, then maybe I could get the advantage. If I could survive long enough for them to tire themselves out, I could win. But gradually, through Strong First especially, I just realized strength is there for everybody, and everybody can get stronger. And then I think I'd used sandbags for conditioning stuff early on. When I was at university, I had a horrible little dingy garage gym, and I used to make my own sandbags because you couldn't buy them then. So I'd get army kit bags and stuff them through the sand, and they'd burst after about 3 uses, and you'd just be pouring sand all over the place. But I used to use them for carries, for distance, for conditioning. And I think then seeing the Cerberus ones at strongman events, and then realizing I could buy them, and really realizing I could buy them in, humble sizes, I just got myself a small one and thought, I'll start with this one. And then I found every 3 to 6 months, I was like, I think I'm ready for the next size bag. And I'd order the next one, and I'd order the next one. And that gave me an unintimidating way into stone lifting, because they're not as intimidating as a stone, and you can make them whatever weight you want. So then when Sven saw me lifting them and invited me on the stone tour, that's when I suddenly had that feeling of, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But I also had this thing, the child in me that used to watch or still does watch World's Strongest Man, when, I can fulfill a childhood yearning to go out and maybe do some of that.
Yeah, and I've been trying to think too about something you said when you first launched into this that I kind of want to share is, and I think this comes out in the strong first approach, that it's just more than physical strength. But to be honest, as I've been going on my own stone journey and my strongman journeys, even hunting games, but a bit less. But every time I achieved one of those sandbags, as you say, like when you achieve that, I used to get very anxious, and I wouldn't accept that I did it. Like I would almost reject the success. And so for me, for people that don't understand, everybody's carrying their own journey in this. And it might look outwardly like it's somebody trying to lift 400 pounds. But for me, the journey has been very psychological in accepting success, accepting that I belong in a community, even if I'm not lifting the Husafell stone. And I can gladly say that I've worked on this for lifetime, but mainly specifically for the last 10 years. And I can now accept, hey, I lifted that. I can be proud of that. I don't necessarily have to boast. And it outwardly, it may look like a woman just lifting a stone, but I've lifted myself. And I think that's what Strong First does, is that it lifts the people more in strength. And so I wonder, what could you, through your gym, through your community, what can we do as these experienced lifters to signal an approachability without kind of lowering the standards, like signaling that it's okay to lift that first 50-pound stone, and you did it, and look at success that way?
I think two things mainly. Like, one is talking about your own journey, like you just said. I think it was Jocko Willink who talked about that, and I just love him for several reasons. He just resonates with me.
Yeah.
But he was on an interview, and he basically said, the reason I am lifting heavier weight than you is just because I've been doing that longer than you are. So everybody starts somewhere, and there might be people who are naturally more gifted, let's say, like having a build and start at a different place, but nevertheless, you have to start somewhere. And I think that's the second point. Like, people should realize that strength training is scalable. Like Ben said, Strong First has standards, technical standards, performance standards. But at the same time, we try to give all of our students their baseline. This is where you want to go. Okay, let's see where you're at, because this will allow us to give you a program that will get you there. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of time, and I will not be able to tell you today how long it will take, but stick to the program, trust the process. There will be ups and downs, but it's not rocket science, and that is reachable. So many people out there showed it. If you are a little stubborn, because I think it takes stubbornness to do the things we like to do, like lifting rocks and getting bloody forearms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you will be able to reach it. So many people showed it. People who when you saw them the first time, never thought they would be able to reach that, and it is just impressive to have those stories out there. So I think talking about it, sharing your own experiences, and showing people that you just need to find the right starting point for you.
And as Jocko says, good.
Yeah, good.
Right?
If
Good.
it hurts in the if it hurts in the beginning, if it's uncomfortable, good. You have to
Good.
go through that.
Yeah. And Ben, what are your thoughts? Because obviously with your with your gym, you have an audience that you have to emulate this for, right?
Yeah. So again, in some regards, I feel like I'm out of my depth. But what you said resonates because I'm on my own journey with it.
Mhm.
And so I feel like, well, who am I to say how this should be done, how the community should conduct themselves, how other people should do that? But I know in my gym, it starts with the coaches. So whenever I onboard a new coach, we sit down and I go through specific things with them, saying like there are certain ways there is a certain community we want to foster. Like as a coach, you're not here to show off. You don't use demos as a chance to show how much you can lift. It's about them. And we talk about celebrating all strength achievements. You know, if someone comes in and they grab a 40 kilo kettlebell and press that, that's impressive. That it's standout impressive. Of course it is. But there could be someone that you've been training for 6 months and they press the 8 kilo kettlebell. And for them, that's as big a milestone as pressing the 40. Yeah. And as coaches, we need to celebrate that as much. We can't be biased in what we celebrate. And it takes time to build that kind of community, that kind of ethos. But we try and weave it into everything we do. So we have our be strong, be capable, be kind, just subtly put a couple of places. We don't shout it at the beginning of every class. It's there, but it's in the background. And we have an elaborated version of that, which sets out our kind of goal as a gym just by the front door. People in reception, while they're putting their shoes on and off, every now and then I'll see someone kind of reading through it. But again, we don't draw attention to it. We have talk test posters around the gym. So the talk test, we might get onto it, is a Strong First, something used in Strong First. It's not uniquely created by Strong First, but it's a method they use to gauge recovery, especially with some of the strong endurance protocols. And so part of it is, can you speak comfortably enough to not add extra breaths where there aren't punctuation points in a sentence? And, Pavel says you could give your name and address. You could just try and speak it out. But I thought it would be nice if we have some good quotes around the gym. So I've printed out these quotes that I have around the gym. And again, we don't draw attention to them, but they're all woven with that idea of strength is unique to each individual. And there's one that I have up in the gym, which I almost feel a little bit of a fraud for having it up. And it's a Pavel quote that just says, if you think you're only strong because you can lift a certain number, whatever that number is, you're going to feel pretty weak most of the time. Strength isn't a data point, it's an attitude. And I find myself just in between sets sometimes wandering over and looking at that. And I still, I feel like I understand it and I don't. I feel like I try and live it and I don't. So I am still trying to internalize that, but I understand it and I don't at the same time.
Like, you can't see it through the lens, but like you've made a girl weepy over here, because like I would if I saw that in your gym, I would so resonate, because isn't that the struggle? Like, isn't that the lifelong journey, is figuring out that that quote? And I think this segues so nicely into what I read, because we're going to get into the stone portion and how strong first. Like, now we're into the meat of the depth of this discussion. But it really highlights to me what was going through your brain, Sven, when you were lifting those Dinnie stones. Because what I read is that you had tried it once and the mat was a little soft, or the ground was soft, and you weren't used to that because that's not how you were training. And you knew that you had to go into a second time and that was going to be it. Like, how did that prep, how did that Dinnie stone teach you about yourself? So let's dig into the mindset here of that very moment of lifting the Dinnie stones, because you mentally knew, like, because everybody's going to go out and read your article after this. This is like a requirement after watching this podcast.
Don't just read
But
that one. He's written other fantastic articles as well. Look, go on Strong First, search for Sven. There are several I recommend every single one.
They are so good. But let's
Thank
talk
you.
about that. Let's talk about that mindset, because we've all been there.
Where to start? I am somebody who likes to be prepared. So if there's something coming up, I want to have a little extra in the tank, just in case. Because you never know. I'm not sure who coined the phrases, but there is known unknowns and unknown unknowns. There are things you might know that that might happen, and you always have to keep in the back of your head. There are certain things that will just take you by surprise, no matter how well prepared you are. So no matter what I do, speaking of like strength goals, I always try to have a little more in the tank for the actual test, let's say, than I would have to show. And I approached the Dinnie stones basically the exact same way. So the goal was to lift 5 to 10% more weight in training than the stone's actual weight would be. Also, reducing the amount of warm-up sets I would take so that I'd be ready to go in cold turkey, because, for example, that's what Jason Marshall had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a cold, rainy, I think, November day, and he was like driving to Potar, came out of the car, and like, okay, here are the stones, go. It was like, you never know what might happen. So
Yeah.
They tell you can bring equipment for warm-up, but I mean, we were flying to Scotland. There's a good chance getting any warm-up equipment worth bearing the name with you on a flight. So I tried to prepare for exactly that scenario. And I was actually quite happy, because the week before I went to Scotland, I lifted like 5% more than the Dinnie stones actually weigh, and it went super well. I was like, I got that. And on the day, I was the last one to arrive, actually. Like, I was 15 minutes early, but everybody was already there and they were starting lifting. I was like, the German being there for the last one to arrive, like, what's going on? And then I saw lifter after lifter doing their first attempt, and nobody was getting the stones. And like, I'm not sure if you know that feeling, but when you have a good preparation and you're confident, you're like, oh, looks like I'm the first one today to lift the Dinnie stones. So I approached the stones, and Brad Nickel gave me some good pointers again. And I did not realize the mats. So whenever I was watching somebody lift the stones, for whatever reason, I did not pay attention to that part. And the mats I had in the gym I was training at, they were like solid. So when I started positioning myself in the setup and tried to start and lift the weights would not come up, but I would sink down.
Yeah.
It was like, what the hell is going on here? This is not the way I envisioned it to go. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing, lost balance, and failed my first attempt. What I did not see at that moment was my back then girlfriend sitting on the side, actually starting to cry because she feared I would not be able to lift the stones. Probably a good thing, because that would have completely got me out of balance up
Yeah.
here. I think what helped me get the second attempt was actually Jason Marshall. Because I told him, hey, I have my attempt. It's going to be, I think it was a Tuesday at 4 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm not sure. What time is that in Texas? Would you be available for a video call? I want you to be a part of this since you were such a big part of my preparation. So lucky me, could take the phone, speak a little to Jason. He was like, you know what, just make a few adjustments. I was looking down instead of up, little things, but that just gave me the conviction again, like, okay, you actually got this. Just go back and do what you did in your training all the time, and things will work out. And it did. It did. But I think the crucial part for me, the crucial takeaway was, even when you think you're prepared, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
It's that unknown thing. There might always be that element in a given situation that you will not be able to prepare for. And honestly, in my head, I got to the point before doing that second attempt where I was like, even if I should not be able to lift them today, I'm fine with that. So I think have a buffer, have a little more in the tank than you might need. But also be okay if things don't go the way you want them to, because there's always the chance for that. Have people as support there, especially if it's like such a moment that you worked for like for 2 years.
Yeah.
But there's never a guarantee that you will succeed.
Yeah, and I think as much as people think that the Dinnies are a test of strength, it's really a test of self-trust. Because like in your article, you said, I knew I only had one more time and it was going to go up. And like the conviction when I read that was just, it's believing in yourself for 2 years that you're going to do this, getting there, not having the conditions that you want, failing a first lift, but you still remain convicted. And I think that relates back to some of those strong first principles, is that it's more than just a strength system, a physical strength system.
Way beyond that.
Yeah.
Like we have a saying, fail with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
A professional does not have a plan B.
Mm-hmm.
You give it your all the way it's supposed to be. And if it won't go up, let's say in a heavy press, then you don't start making funny movements and risking, let's say, a back injury. You just realize, okay, it's not in me today. Bring it down safely. Live to fight another day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the saying somebody put out there, but I'm not sure. But it's
Yeah.
If not, you heard
it
it first here. So you finished the Dinnies. We've moved on to the stone lifting tour. Ben, talk to us about the lead up to the stone lifting tour. When did it take place, and what stones were you going to lift on the tour?
Yeah, so Sven had contacted me, like I said, 2022. Hang on, was it 22? 23? 23, sorry. It was 2023, I think.
Yeah, it was 23, yeah. Right.
So I'd been lifting these sandbags, and Sven reached out and said, look, I'm going to go and lift the Dinnies again, but we're going to do some stones, some of the historic stones while we're there. Do you want to join us? And, like everybody and their wife, I'd watched Stoneland and just fallen in love with it, the film that launched a million stone lifts. And so the other thing I'd watched was Dan Strauss, Raspberry Ape, who's a British grappler and just strength legend. He'd put out a series on YouTube called Stones and Strangleholds, which he'd toured around Scotland. He'd been doing jiu-jitsu seminars, and as he'd gone round, he'd lifted some of the historic stones. And they're all great, but he did the Inver stone on that one when it was still at, it's June, isn't it? The lady that used to keep the stone. When it was still at June's house. And I fell in. I love where it is now at the Braemar Highland Game Centre. That's where it was when I lifted it. But seeing it at June's house and seeing, hey, Liam.
Hi, sweetie. Oh, we have a sick little one.
Yeah.
You need a dad.
Seeing it at June's house as well. I fell in love with the stone, and I fell in love with her. To be honest, one of my big regrets is that I didn't get into stone lifting in time to go and lift it at her house and meet her, because what a character, along with some of the other people that are in that video that are unfortunately no longer with us. It's every time I have a pang of sadness that I'll never get to meet those folks. But so the Inver stone was instantly on my radar. Whatever other stones we kind of made sense to go and lift, I was interested to go and do. But the Inver stone was one that stuck out to me straight away, because I thought, I can't do the Dinnies. I know we've just had all that talk about self-belief, but honestly, I went, nah, I can't do the Dinnies. But Inverstone, maybe I can do the Inverstone. Maybe I can do that, because that's kind of like these sandbags I've been lifting. I just need to go heavier. So I said, well, Sven, will you put a program together for me, and I'll definitely train for the Inver. And I can't remember exactly how the conversations went, but I think Sven basically went, oh, you can train for the Dinnies as well. There wasn't much of a choice in it. So I thought, you know what? He's wrong. I won't be able to lift them, but I'll get stronger as I try for it. So why not? The time is going to pass anyway. I might as well be doing something productive with it. So why not try and train for them? And I'll get part of the way there. If I can get 50% of the way to lifting the Dinnies, I'll be stronger than I am now. So why not? And then that was 2.5 years ago, I think, and I have belief in myself that I can lift those Dinnies now. My attempt is booked in for the beginning of May. Like Sven said, it might happen then, it might not. There's never 100% certainty, but I now have the belief that I will lift them. It's a matter of time. It will probably be in May, but it might not be. But if it's not in May, it'll happen. And that's not a belief that I had when I started training for them, which is, I love being able to say that. I don't quite know how that happened. Just hours and hours and hours of being in the gym and doing it.
So
that's the other effect of training. You build that confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been watching you. You've definitely have started your pin training. So obviously you're getting into the stone specific training now.
Yeah.
But and Sven, you spoke about that. What mistakes do people make when they rush into the stone specific training, whether it be for the historics like naturals or the Dinnies?
I think, no, so speaking natural stones, I think if you never touched a natural stone before, you might be in for a big surprise, because that was that other eye-opening moment that I had in Scotland when I went there in 2022 for the Dinnie stones, because the Inver stone in Braemar is very close to Potarch, and I was like, you know what? I might not have a chance to lift some other stones, but we're so close to the Inver stone, I will definitely give that a try. And based on its history, I was like, that would be such a cool stone to lift. I had done Zercha squats in my preparation for the Dinnie stones, so with the barbell, having the bar in the crooks of your elbow. And I thought, this is similar enough to lift a stone up front. I think my heaviest weight was like 150 kilos for a double, so roughly 30 kilos heavier than the Inver stone. I was like, yeah, even if it's different, like 30 kilos heavier, I got that. And then I watched John Auden's video again, making it look like child's play, getting it up to the shoulder. Like, no problem there. And I was so taken aback when I first started to get that thing off the floor. Like, I'm in the wrong movie here. This is not right. This is supposed to go different. I got it to my lap. It took, I don't know, probably 45 minutes in total. I cannot tell you how many attempts until I was like, okay, this is not going to happen today. And I was not able to stand up with it. Martin Janssens who I was in contact also quite a lot before going to Scotland, he was like, you know what, it's actually quite an achievement to get the Inver stone to your lap. But in that moment, it just doesn't feel like, if you've been preparing for something, like, we want to celebrate every achievement, no matter how small, but in that given moment, you just cannot accept it, I think. So get one way or another, get a stone. Based on what I saw Ben achieving with lifting sandbags, I would say, and not just Ben, I mean, countless other people by now show you this, but it's a pretty good alternative if you don't have access to a stone. And just expect to hurt. Because some stones are way rougher than you might think they are. Like the Inver stone has such a weird combination of being smooth and rough at the same time. It's approach it humbly, I want to say. Like, if you did strength training before, that's not a guarantee for you to lift a stone, because weight is only one aspect of the whole game. Like the weight distribution, the shape of the stone, the surface, the texture, like all those things, even if you think it's not heavy, just regarding the weight, it's like not everything. There are so many other aspects you need to keep in mind.
And so when you went back on the trip with Ben, you both got it to the barrel, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ben, let's talk about your lift for that and that experience.
Yeah. So I'd in training, I had a 120 kilo sandbag, which is about the weight of the Inverstone. I'd done most of my work probably I had a bag that was 105 kilo, and that was the one that I could consistently get up. I managed to lift the 120 kilo bag to my chest once before I went there. So, you know, I'm also, like Sven, someone that likes to be prepared and over prepared. But in that case, I had to settle for, all right, you've touched something that's similar weight. That's about it. But the 120 kilo sandbag I have is big. You know, it's a lot bigger than the Inverstone. So it's awkward. And I had it long ways between my feet. So I had to stand really wide and I had to kind of shimmy it up between my knees. And it wasn't tightly packed. So it was quite a floppy bag and just a nightmare. So in that regard, the Inverstone felt lovely and compact compared to it. But like Sven said, I wasn't prepared for how rough it was and how much skin it would take off my arms. Not that you notice that until an hour later. In terms of the journey for it, I drove all the way up. So I live in the south of England. So I covered the length of England, and, you know, it's a good way up into Scotland. I went by myself. My wife wasn't able to join me at that time. She wasn't feeling very well. So I really enjoyed that. It was a long drive, but it was, you know, it's about 10 hours, but it gave me a lot of time to just think, listen to some stuff I wanted to listen to, some podcasts, but not over consume it, and just enjoy seeing some parts of even my own country that I hadn't seen before. It was a beautiful drive up, lovely weather. Got to where we were staying in Aboyne. I had a little Airbnb. I was just down the road from Sven, but we didn't meet up that night. So then just the quietness, the calmness of being able to get myself ready that morning, drive myself across. It's about a 20, 30-minute drive from Aboyne to Braemere. And again, just stunning, just gorgeous landscapes. I had spent a little bit of time in Canada, in Banff. I worked a winter season out on the ski slopes, and I have left part of my heart in the Rockies. I yearn to go back one day. I love them. I love it. And so much of Scotland reminds me of that. You know, we drove actually through Banff in Scotland as well at one point, which just made part of me sing. That whole just drinking in the journey up to it, the physical journey up to it, was just incredible for me. And I'm not always very good at being in the moment, but I was so glad that I was able to enjoy that part. And then we got there. You know, there's very little fanfare. You turn up. It was a Sunday morning. It was, you know, cold. There was dew everywhere, so it was quite damp. We'd arranged, so Sven and I rocked up at the same time. I said hello to his wife and to Liam, who you just met, and yeah, there's no warm up really. You do a few arm shakes and stretches and stuff, and then it's okay. There it is. I probably wasn't as good at drinking in the moment for that because I just wanted to get it done. Almost, there was an element of I've got so much energy and emotion invested in this, and I probably rushed. We lifted it, I think, somewhere three or four times.
Like
we took it up.
Yeah.
But that first one, I'm glad I've got the video of it. I FaceTimed my wife so she could be there in spirit, and but I rushed it, and it is what it is. I've learned to try and enjoy it even when you're feeling antsy about getting it done. I think trying to again enjoy that moment is really important. But it was the culmination of so many things for me. I think it probably was a big turning point in me going, yeah, maybe I can do the Dinnies now as well. It was a stepping stone as well, and just felt elated. I was walking on air for weeks afterwards.
Yeah, I saw the photos and videos of both of you, and I'm just like the pictures of Liam there and him watching you, and your wife was there or your partner. Just so the energy around it, like it was a real grounded moment. And I think, Ben, you really touched on something for me, is that so often in the pursuit of strength, when we get to the actual pivotal moment, that is when we're tested the most to actually stay in our body and be at one with the attempt, or be at one with whatever it is that you're doing, and not get lost in that anxiety. So that's what stone lifting has. I do compete in stone lifting, but when I'm not training it per my program and I'm out lifting, it becomes very much a grounded practice, feeling my feet on the ground, watching my breath, watching how it feels as it goes up, feeling that heaviness as you do the bumps on your chest, feeling the solid ground. Like, I think, and this is a lifelong practice of staying conscious in your body. And I think this is one strength that the Strong First also teaches, is that embodiment piece, that listening, that groundedness. And you're going to have another attempt to do it when you go over to retry the Dinnies. So you can have, it'll be doing it again, but this time, I don't know if it is on your list, but this time you can be present, and you can, and I think so many times when we see people do these lifts on Instagram, is that we only see that moment, right? We don't see the background and the story that you've told, the lead up, the arc to it, how you were in the moment. And this is what I love about the podcast, is being able to get into these stories. And I've collected so many stories around the Inver like yours. It is a lot of people's gateway stone. If it's not the Dinnies, it's the Inver. Ben, talk to me about your experience on the Inver, and then we'll kind of go to, other stones that you might have lifted on that tour.
Yeah.
Oh, again, sorry. I mean, Ben or Sven, whoever wants to talk. I knew I was going to do this at one point in the episode. I knew I was going to do this. Sorry, Sven.
No worries. For me, the Inver stone was actually the third stone during that trip to Scotland, because we flew to Edinburgh and then took a rental car from there, drove up to the Highlands, and then stayed in Pitlochry. It's a small village, beautiful, and went to one of my other highlights of that trip, which was the Fianna stone.
Ah, yes.
So given what I just said about biggest mistakes in training for lifting historic or natural stones, up until that point, I was not able to lift natural stones.
Yeah.
So coming back 2 years later, I just hoped I would be stronger than 2 years ago. But for me, it was a test, honestly. And it's not just that aspect, but these stones have been used as tests of strength. So one thing that I wanted to do was to see how I would measure up against it. And I was actually quite happy with it, because I think the Fianna stone is a stone that, if you stand in front of it, looks smaller than you think it would be, but it has a density to it that throws you off a little. It provides some good handles, though. So I was actually successful lifting the stones, also carrying back to the plinth. So that was a good start into that. We went to Castle Mengus afterwards, and I had to go at the Chieftain Stone, which is a completely different challenge. Comparatively light, let's say. Also, if you compare it to the other stones, like 115, like the Fianna stone comes at 127, I think. So weight-wise, like I just said, that might be deceiving, because it's just smooth. Like, it gets compared to glass, to a sphere of glass, and that's actually what it is. Just getting that thing off the floor probably took me 15 minutes. Again, that stubbornness.
Yeah.
And I was able to get it to chest fairly good. I was not completely happy with my attempt, so another reason to come back. But those two stones, if you watched the Stonelet documentary, are just in a setting that is stunning. And being there on a chilly Sunday morning, breathtaking. It was just breathtaking. I was happy with how both stones went. So I was fairly convinced that the Inver stone will go up as well. Although I have to say that I think Ben did a way better job than I did, because no, I think so. If you look at the two videos, you're fair. Your lift is more beautiful than mine, but that just speaks to what I was alluding earlier, which is general strength training is good, but at one point you need to make that transition to the actual stone that you're lifting, because weight, there's more to it than weight. A lot of people said that before, like very strong people, like even strongman athletes, struggle with the natural stones and the historic stones, although they're lifting so much more than you would ever be able to possible in the classic lifts. So happy with the lifts, but there will be another reckoning with the Inver stone. I want to do it more beautiful the next time.
Yeah, I don't think there's any stone other than the Fianna that's made me cry, because I didn't get it my last attempt, and I had to be gracious in that that's what the world was offering me up at that point. And I may never get it, but I will continue to work away at attempting to get some bit of air beneath it. But that it's beautiful. I took off my shoes for that one and walked across the pasture, and it was beautiful, dewy, and I mean, it's just when you think of a stereotypical Scottish photo, that's what it was like for me.
Yeah.
And so, Ben, did you try Fianna or any other stones on that trip, or was it just Inver for you?
Yeah. Well, when I got there and Sven told me he'd been cheating on me and going and playing with other stones before, I was very happy for him, but I was incredibly jealous. So on that trip, all of us, Sven, his then partner, now wife, son, and two of his friends had come over as well. We all went up and we did the Barevan stone, which I know is one of your favorites as well. And just you can't. We have limited time, and I can't. I know none of us can put into words how atmospheric the surroundings around the Barevan stone are. That is a special place. Even if you have no interest in stone lifting, like just go and visit it, because it's amazing. So yeah, then after Sven did the Dinnies. On my drive home, I thought, well, I'm driving home. I might as well turn a 10-hour trip into a 12-hour trip and visit some other stones on the way back. So I went to the Fianna stone, and it was just the most glorious morning. It was that would have been a Wednesday morning. The sun was out. For October, it was an incredibly hot day in Scotland, and I was there for a good while. I managed to get it to lap a few times, but I could not stand properly with it. Yeah, it truly humbled me.
Yeah.
I've not told anyone else this, but I sat there for a good while and I just talked. You could say I talked to the stone, or I just talked out loud. I just sat there for a good half an hour afterwards and just talked out my thoughts and talked to the stone, and gave it a pat and wished it well and said that I'd be back. And
that is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a special place. So I have. There's no ill feeling about the fact that I couldn't lift it. I'm not happy that I couldn't lift it, but I'm satisfied with how it went, and I really look forward to going and not going and lifting it again, just going and being around it again. I'm looking forward to. And then on the way back, I went to the Putrick stone that obviously has the standing plinth. So the keeper of the stone there, I cannot remember his name. He's from London though. Kindly let me into his land. He had some of his ponies walking around, so I trotted down with my tripod and my crash mat so I could take care of the stone. And the Putrick stone again, just so special to be there with that stone plinth. And he told me some of the history of it as well, some of the theories around it. And that was before it was cracked recently. So when you could still lift the Putrick onto the platform, onto the plinth. And I was very lucky. The monocle stone was there as well, so I was able to lift the monocle, and I felt I learnt my lesson a bit more from the Inver stone. The monocle's about the same weight as the Inver stone, although different shape, different texture. But I was really happy with my monocle lift because I took my time, and you don't have anything to lift it onto because you can't lift it onto the plinth. It's far too heavy to put on there. So I just did a standing lift with it to the chest, and felt like I'd satisfied a little bit of dissatisfaction I had with my Inver lift in terms of prettiness and being able to to do it nicely. And again, just a special place to be. They're all so special. I know it's often quoted from Stoneland, but they are just rocks to anyone else. But if you know, you know. And I know the people that are listening to this, they'll appreciate how much I can't put into words. Yeah, they will appreciate how much I can't articulate just the meaning of it all. Profound.
It's that feeling when you stand at those places you saw so many times in that documentary.
Yeah. And just feeling you're part of a history that goes on. It's so much bigger than you. And you have the privilege of being a little part of it. Not a part that anyone will remember, but you are part of that. You don't have to You don't have to etch your name into anything, but you've been part of that history. Is amazing. It's so rewarding. Yeah.
So as we wrap up the stone, oh sorry, yeah, go ahead, Sven.
Yeah, I do have a martial arts background as well. And in the martial arts, you speak of heritage. You can directly see who's in your line, and it goes back to amazing people. Who knows who will remember you when they trace back their heritage? So you will never know. And that's the beautiful thing. Old school strength about the whole physical culture thing, I think.
Like, well, you both have Smash and Pass on, right?
Yes, we do.
We're not affiliated, but go and buy some Smash and Pass stuff because they're great.
They are.
I thought it was the best fit for the interview
it's
today.
So good. Like you didn't actually plan this because you're dead. I thought it was planned because when I came on, I thought, how are they both wearing Smash and Pass? Like, that's great. But it is true. You speak to that because imagine those, Ben, you sat with the stone for moments. I've cried over the stone. My tears are on that stone. Like, just think of the stories that have been imprinted there, and the stories of that we're bringing into our families as well. And we're going to, as we wrap up this episode, we're going to talk about imprinting those stories on future generations with fatherhood. But as we wrap up the stone lifting section, is there any like stone principles? Because I wanted to go deep dive into kettlebells and the transfer to deadlifts and like
We're
all of
happy.
that. But
We're more than happy to come on again and get into the
Okay.
weeds on strong first principles. Like I'm here for that.
okay, perfect. Because I did not nerd out nearly enough. But is there just maybe like 3 things you can kind of say from a strong first perspective about the stone lifting before we kind of segue out of this chapter?
I don't mind kicking one off. I think
Go for it.
a huge skill that is developed through all the strong first work is tension generation. The ability to create tension in your body, not just a brace, full body tension. And it's weird because I have heard time and time again and experienced myself, people's way into strong first is often the kettlebell cert, because it's kind of, the kettlebell is kind of the flagship tool that strong first are known for, rightly or wrongly. People do the kettlebell cert, maybe level 1, level 2, the barbell cert, and the body weight cert doesn't get the credit it deserves, because often then people do the body weight cert as a kind of, I've done the others, I'll do that as well, unless they have a calisthenics background. And so many people do the body weight cert and then go, I understand the tension generation thing now. It links all the others together and it improves their skills in the other modalities. Because you don't have an external force to work against, they learn how to create that tension in themselves. And then when you then do apply it to an external force, a dumbbell, a barbell, a kettlebell, a sandbag, a stone, whatever, you know how to do it so much better. It supercharges it. And I think that's a skill that transfers to any strength, and really stone lifting, because the amount of isometric, static tension and strength you have to create just to lift the stone and to keep hold of it is fundamental, I'd say.
Yeah. And Sven?
Pavel likes to say, if you can train only 2 things, train your grip and your core strength, because that will link everything together. Sometimes we talk about neural facilitators, so certain muscle groups or, let's say, actions that will engage the nervous system more, translating into more strength throughout the body. And what I thought, it's not necessarily training for stones, but what stone lifting will give you is exactly that. It will give you grip strength, and because of the way you have to hold the stone in front of your body, it will activate your core and get you strong there. So I think as a training tool, actually, it fits in very nicely to what we're doing there. And we were talking off air, Rebecca, like the kettlebell, the barbell, the body weight, it's just a tool to convey general principles of strength. Like Ben just said in the body weight certification, it's way easier if you have an external form of resistance, like a weight. Way harder when you have to brace or create tension, not a feet back tension, but a feet forward tension. So from like a dead stop deadlift is completely different than a squat from the squat rack, where you get that loaded feeling before you move. You don't have to create that tension up front on your own. So use the tool, whatever you have available. Try to build some strength. Stones are a awesome tool for it. I mean, it just looks cool and feels awesome to lift a stone.
It does. It absolutely does.
But there are many schools out there, many strength systems that can be applicable to stone lifting. Like you mentioned 531. There are others like the conjugate method. Dave Nisbet, Caveman Dave Man on Instagram, like his programming is awesome. Sean Urquhart. There are so many great lifters. John, I forgot his name. Travel Lift Stones.
Travel Lift
Repeat on
Stones
Instagram.
Repeat. Yeah.
Yeah. Like different approaches to reach the same goal, but they share, I think, the same principles and fundamental ideas behind the training.
Yeah. I think for me, for sure, because I am an older athlete, but I focused more on my grip and my kind of, I'm going to say core, but I know that that's kind of a controversial word to use, but let's just say that.
Yeah, sadly.
And yeah. And so I'll be using the Miguel 3 method. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I
Yep.
always do that every lift now. And now I've also incorporated band pull aparts every single day, and grip work. And it has been a game changer for me with respect to how I approach weights, how I approach stones, how I approach even just walking, and showing up in the world. So thank you for that. As we segue out of this, we did talk about how I loved watching the family aspect of the Inver stone lift and seeing little Liam there and seeing Liam come on. And I got to get a message from him the other day too, which was so, so sweet. But can you talk about how, because it's more than just the stones, as you say, it's deeper than that. And so how fatherhood, or soon to be fatherhood, has influenced how you train and your approach to strength?
Where to start?
Right? I know. We need a chapter 2.
I mean, just based on what I'm doing and what Liam sees me doing, he already starts about talking about like becoming strong to lift the Dinnie stones or training to get stronger, although he has no idea what that word actually means at this point in time. So one thing that I try to do is to, as best as I can, live up to the meaning of it in as many ways as I can, so that he grows up and has a holistic view or picture of what being strong will actually means. I do like it that he already likes to lift the kettlebells and he picks up his little stones. It's awesome to share the whole journeys with them, like just going to the places, like we mentioned before, like the Barevan stone, the Fianna stone. Like it's just awesome to be there, whether there is a stone or not. In the end, it would not matter because those places just would be worthwhile visiting for their own sake. And so I think it's another aspect of just creating a bond with your kid and showing them what the world has to offer. Whether he's going to lift stones or not, I don't actually care. Right now, he think it's funny to lift some stones or rocks that he finds somewhere outside because I'm doing it. Who knows what his intention will be in 10 years down the road, whether he will be still interested in there. But just seeing what strength training had for amazing effects in my own life, I just hope that I am example enough for him to pick up a physical practice of whatever kind on his own once he's old enough.
Yeah. And Ben, you're soon to be dad, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk to us about how you're experiencing your own mindset shift.
Yeah. So my wife is almost 38 weeks pregnant, so literally any moment. When's this going to air, by the way?
This one will come out early March.
Okay, so I can disclose it here, knowing that it won't be disclosed to the world. We haven't told anybody what we're having, but we know that we're having a little boy. So I didn't have a preference. Any child is a blessing. So I wasn't gunning for one or the other, but it's been on my mind quite a bit. And looking through some of the talking points that you put out for the podcast got me thinking even more. I've had a lot of reflection. My wife is fantastic in doing things purposefully and thinking through the intention of things and the outcome. So she's, you want to talk about mentors in terms of building me as a person. I have so much credit to give to my wife and my parents. And I think tying into some of the other things that we've said about, I think especially my granddad, my paternal granddad, being such a big figure, has felt like strength-wise quite a lot to live up to. Although he never, he passed away when I was about 12. So I've never had to stand side by side to him as a man, but there feels like there's a legacy there. There feels like there's something quite imposing there. You know, we've talked in our family. He left school when he was 13. He went and worked in a copper mill. This was during the 1930s. There was depression. You either didn't eat, or he could go to school, but he wouldn't have food. So he had to go and work, and he would carry 100-pound sacks in each hand as just part of his daily work. And I remember him having these huge hands. You know, you talk about the iconic sort of someone that's built like stone lifting. I don't think he ever did any stone lifting, but my God, was he built for it. And I think my dad didn't inherit that build. It seems to skip a generation in my family. So like I said, my brother did. I had my father's build. And I think in terms of things I want to pass down, it's probably something that my mum and my dad have passed down to me, or two things. One is the determination. My dad was, sorry, my dog is going absolutely berserk. He is the protector of the household. I'm just going to close the door.
No worries.
Don't let size get in your way. He's a miniature sausage dog, but my God, is he going to protect this house with everything he's got? My parents showed me determination in terms of, my dad was the first person in their line to go to university. And we regard my dad as incredibly intelligent and wise in our family. He's the oracle. He will tell you, I'm not smart. I had to work much harder than everyone else at university. You know, he met people that were effortlessly intelligent, but he just worked harder and to match them. And I think that's a lesson I want to show my son, and maybe other children, if we're lucky enough, is that determination of you can set your mind to something, and it'll take a while, but you can do something if you want to set your mind to it. And the other one is one that definitely did come down through my grandparents and through my parents. And what I talked about earlier is, you have a responsibility. You look after the people around you. And strength is a responsibility, and strength comes in many forms. And I really hope that my son will watch me strength train and have an interest in it, but I don't want to set any preconceived ideas. I don't want him to feel he has to do anything. He doesn't have to be involved in strength or stone lifting. But I just want him to use whatever gifts and talents he has, and whatever skills he develops, and see the responsibility of them. Not as an onerous thing, not as a burden. It's an incredible gift to have these things, and to be able to look after people around you it makes that gift bloom. It's the combination of them. It's what they're sort of destined for, I'd say. Yeah.
And this ties back nicely to something that Sven was mentioning to us about tying through history through BJJ, and like, you won't know your impact, and you won't know who is taking inspiration from you. And for me, like, I was the first person in my family to go off to university. I've been the first woman to show up in a physical gym. I've been the first to stone lift. And I've changed years of generational trauma that I have no idea the impact of what it will be 3 generations from now. But my girls are seeing it. They're getting in the gym, and they're strong women. They have never been on a diet in their life, and they are in their late teens, which I cannot say for a majority of people that are in my generation. We were on diets probably since the age of 12 and 13. And through me alone, just that one little piece, of, I don't have to monitor my eating in a way to be small, to fit, and be palatable. Goodness knows what that's going to be. So I think as fathers, you have a huge responsibility for not only your sons, but for any daughters that you might have, to show up and to show them that attachment. And I can see that with you, Sven, that you have a very strong attachment with your son, and it's a beautiful thing, and it will pay dividends years from now. This has been an amazing episode, and I want a part 2, maybe even a part 3. And sadly, we're all parents and we all have things to do, but we do need to close out in our standard way. And that's just 3 pieces of advice. And I feel like you've been giving me, little snippets of things to think about. But three last pieces of advice to take us out of this episode. And Sven, we'll start with you, and Ben, you can finish up.
Get yourself a challenge. Because you need resistance to build strength, right? So you need some kind of challenge to see what you're made of. You need something that tests you, that you have to struggle for, that will not only show you what you're made of, but also what you might be able to achieve. Patience. Like, stubborn patience.
Yes.
There's that saying, like, most people overestimate what they can achieve in a month, but underestimate what they can do in a year. I think that is very true. I participated in a little poll in the Strong First Forum 2 years ago, like after action report for 2024. And I was like, you know what, let's just start writing and see what happens. And I was blown away with what I did in a year. And it didn't feel to me like that going through that year. I was just aware, looking back, what I actually did. And it's just incredible. And try to share the experiences with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether you do a tour with like-minded people or just take the family with you to lift some stones, whether they might complain or not. At first, because usually it's just beautiful places you will get to, share the experiences you have. It makes them so much more meaningful.
Thank you. Those are lovely. And Ben?
I feel like I just thought of something great and I've forgotten it straight away. But
welcome to my world.
Yeah. Welcome to parenting. That is going to be a thought through like the entire parenting experience.
Well, if we do other episodes, you'll see my slow deterioration as sleep deprivation kicks in until I'm just dribbling and going stone good, lift hard. Yeah, I think in terms of general, there's something that's come up for me a few times. Setting up my business was really hard. I won't go into the depths of it, but I tried to do everything myself, and this was during COVID, and it was scary. It was a lot of responsibility. It was a big ask, and I got myself to a very dark place over the course of a couple of years of overworking. I'm thankfully in a much better place with it now. I've had people help me, professional and not, and I've got a great team around me at the gym. And something that comes back time and again, I think it's an African proverb, is if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. And you can, for a short period of time, if you want to do something, if you want to go quickly, go alone. Absolutely. There are times when you're going to have to just rely on yourself and get that thing done. I tried to do it for too long, but in other regards, I'm not someone that naturally socializes. For coaching, I can step out and I can fill a room, but I stay at the back of the room. I stay in the corner, and I don't assume that I have a place at the table. I don't naturally step out, but it's every time I've reached out to people, it's been worth it. It's amazing the opportunities that come up. I wouldn't be here with you guys if I hadn't, Sven and I hadn't talked to each other, and I hadn't reached out to him, and we, all those great things that have come from that. So reach out to other people. You go further if you go together. And that goes for many aspects. I think a second one would probably be you'll never regret being kind. It can sometimes blow up in your face and cause more trouble than you think it's worth in the short term. And you go, oh God, I was just trying to help. But it can be an inconvenience at times. Being kind can put more work on your plate, and it can ruin plans that you might have had for a simple life that day or whatever it is. But in terms of a peace in your soul, you'll never regret being kind, and you should always try and choose it when you have the opportunity. And it takes reserves sometimes. It's not the easy option. And in terms of the third one, it's okay to not always believe in yourself. I think it doesn't always seem like it. Nowadays, a lot of stuff is to do with almost positive toxic. It's okay to not believe in yourself at times. I certainly haven't in a lot of my journey, and that's that's all right. It doesn't mean you can't achieve something. It doesn't mean you won't achieve something. And I think sometimes people think you have to be so positive that when they see that chink in the armor, that crack of doubt in themselves, everything falls apart. Whereas if actually you go, no, it's okay. It's okay to not always have unwavering belief in myself, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. Then yeah, that's a great, you can turn it into a strength.
I absolutely appreciate these last bits of advice because I didn't know when I first reached out to you and it was about the Inver stone that it was going to morph into this episode. But your energy that your profiles give out and the exchanges that we've had is true. It's 100% honest and true. And I have, through this was not supposed to be a 2-hour discussion, but it's slowly turning into that. But I have been teary-eyed through this. I have been, like, my arms are tingling and I like have goosebumps pretty much the whole time because I just feel so in alignment with you as people. And I don't know if you believe in this kind of woo-woo, but when you do have those kind of shivers, you need to listen to them. You need to listen and perk up. And it's a strong message that you are in alignment. And so as we finish off this episode, I want to tell you that I am supremely grateful that you coordinated this. We did it over 3 different time zones. Ben was the mastermind and he corralled us all together. And the laughter, the honesty, your extreme knowledge, which we didn't even like get into the depths of, but I slowly became humbled by about Wednesday, realizing what I was entering into this conversation. But as you can see, folks, these people they're just people. And that's what we like to bring to this table is people that are amazing but are just like absolutely humble and good at what they do. And you would never even know it. You would just never even know it. And so if I saw you on the street, I would have no idea that you are all of these things. So thank you so much for being here, taking the time, and cannot wait to hear about the Dinnie attempt and your further stone escapades in our part 2 in 2027.
Yeah.
So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day and we'll be in touch. Take care.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
But also,
yes.
Thank you for doing that great preparation.
Yeah, no.
Like you said, you took some real time to dive into the weeds, and I think I mean I haven't been on big shows, but I think nobody did it to the extent you did, and it turned out, like you said, to be an absolutely wonderful conversation. So,
thank
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the stuff you sent over, the questions to think about were incredibly thought provoking for me, and like I said, it's helped me actually pull together a lot of stuff that's been probably percolating up in my mind for years, and I've never been able to find the words to express it. I still don't feel I have really, but it's an incredible gift that you've given us to be able to think through some of these things and tie together so many threads that I now realize have been going on in my life and and in my forebears before that I didn't even know. And yeah, thank you.
Oh my goodness. That is my metric and you've just hit it. So checkbox and my heart. So sending you all the love as you venture out into the day and see you on the next episode of Stone Table Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Take care.
Take care.